15th, 2025. I think on our agenda, people can see how to remote access if that's their preferred method of being involved. And I'd like to read the guiding principles. Are we raising the bar in all of our actions? Are we honoring the past but not living in the past? Are we building positive connections with our community and outside partners? And is the decision-making process building a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community? With that, I'd like to call over the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we've got 3 discussion items scheduled for tonight. Beginning with the mid-biennial review by Director Crocker.
Or if you want Randy, okay, you can do that way. So we're starting with tonight by checking in and just give you guys
Perfect, thank you.
Good Zoom?
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
Cool. So just checking in with the council, updating you kind of where we're at in this mid-biennial review process. I think for most of you, this is your first time through a mid-review. And again, like I remind our directors, this isn't a new budget. So we set our 2-year budget, and then midway through, we just review it, see how we're performing against revenue, see how we're performing expenses. Then we make modifications to any action the council's taken thus far through the year that may not have been included in the budget, like some contracts, amendments, those type of things. So I typically call those like cleanup items or cleanup items. And then there will be other items like directors will ask for, as they kind of review their budgets, if there's additional needs that they've identified, anything major or significant that would impact our 2-year period. So we really focus this mid-review on big things mostly. But that's kind of where we're at right now through September. So I've put out my requests to the departments to review their budgets. They have some instructions on how to fill out any additional requests or follow-up items. They will get those responses back to me by September 24th. And then from 24th through October 1st, Finance Department will be reviewing their requests, compiling the information, trying to get in a presentable format to the council. We'll sit down with the mayor, kind of walk through their requests, and he'll make a recommendation or for a yes or no on their kind of request. We'll bring that back to the Finance Committee, so I'll have to send out a calendar invite for the 3 of you guys. Sometime in the first week of October, the 7th through the 10th is usually when I target. Sometime that week we'll have one meeting to go over all the requests and kind of where we're at. Then we'll follow up with the next meeting being October 14th. We'll have a public hearing on revenue sources, so this is required for us to set property taxes. So we'll have a revenue presentation and review revenues for the general fund as well as the property taxes that we're anticipating. So we'll have a public hearing at that meeting. The 21st will be the work study session where we'll bring the whole mid-biennial review proposal to the full council to review and discuss. So work study just like this, I'll walk through all the requests, discuss, and at that meeting you'll get some direction. It'll give you some direction if it's different than what we have proposed for the mid-biennial kind of amendments. Then we'll hold another public hearing on the modifications to that budget at that meeting. Again, it's just open the public hearing, allow the public to comment on it. We'll take any comment and incorporate that into our final budget amendment, which I'm targeting for October 28th, so the last meeting of the month. I'm also targeting October 28th to adopt the 2026 property tax levy. So that takes us pretty quick, but we do really focus month in October. Again, it's not a new budget process, so it doesn't need to take as long. We focus on high-level stuff, things you should already be familiar with, and it's just really just checking in to see where we're doing and any modifications we want to make at this point in the 2-year process.
Question.
Yeah.
So October for the property tax, for the people to come in and make a comment, what day is that again?
October 21st is what I'm targeting for a public hearing.
Okay, 21st for the public hearing. And then you said you want to kind of wrap this up on October 28th?
Yeah, so I'm targeting 28th to adopt budget amendments as well as the property tax.
Okay, so how many weeks does this go out for the public to hear about this? Is it, because I'm kind of thinking, it should be at least 3 weeks out for the public to hear, they get to come here for a public comment. Do they get that much,
There's a required time.
yeah, what's the
It's not
acquired
3
time?
weeks.
No,
It's not 30.
10 days or something.
10 days?
I don't even think it's actually 80 days. I mean, Charlie
Is
might
it
go
just a
ahead, but
week?
It's just you're required to hold a public hearing.
You're
Yeah.
required to hold a public hearing, and the public notice has to be posted 2 consecutive weeks.
Oh, so like kind of a
So
2-week
it's 2
period?
weeks, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that, yeah, great,
And Heidi, the schedule that you were asking about is on
Uh-huh.
page 4 of the packet.
yeah,
It's that.
right in, oh, and I did get that.
Yeah.
My computer is not working, so I got a few things here, but
Okay.
yes, okay, thank you. I didn't, yes, I do have that, so thank you. I want to make sure that the public knows about that.
Yeah.
1%.
Levy's 1%?
Property levy is up to max, yeah,
Sorry.
maximum 1%. But we just got the county reports, so I'm still going through what our max levy can be.
Is
Yeah,
there-
most years we haven't been able to levy a full 1% because of you have a levy cap, and so we tend to hit our levy cap every year, which means we aren't going up 1%. So I wouldn't expect us to go up 1%.
And this is not by vote, right? I mean, the public can talk, but it's, we do it, it's not
Yeah,
a
yes.
vote on,
Oh,
yeah.
no, no.
Yeah, because there's a vote in here that I read too. That was, I think that's Nick Vaughn talking about that one.
Yeah, no, this will be council action, so
Right.
set the proper times. Yeah, and then that gives me enough time to then file the paperwork at DOR and get all that to them by November 30th.
Yes, okay.
When you said that you talked to the department heads, is that to see if there's any new needs, like significant needs for the biennial budget? If we can make some adjustments, is that what you talked to them for?
Yeah, so generally
they're
I will
over.
talk with them first.
Correct, yeah,
And we'll either rein in their requests.
For sure.
Or we'll fully support it. For Jansen, we'll fully support it. But in years past, we've had to kind of rein in and say, hey, this isn't what this is about, here's really what we're focusing on. And so we'll have those discussions with the department directors, and they generally understand, and Mayor's there too, so yep, this is kind of what this process is about. And then we'll meet with the finance committee and say, here's what they requested, but here's really what we're bringing forward as a budget amendment proposal. And mostly what I found in the last couple biennial processes, the directors were very reasonable, and we've generally supported almost everything they brought forward.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been too much, because we've kind of really focused the message on the press side of what they are supposed to be focusing on, not completely writing a new
sure,
budget.
sure,
So yeah, and they're doing a good job of focusing on those big things.
okay.
Any sneak preview on issues now that we can start thinking about, or is it too soon?
It's too soon, yeah, I don't have
Okay.
anything back from, I'm just now starting to really focus my attention on
Yeah.
budget, going through each GL and see if there's
Yeah.
any trends, anything I should be aware of, anything to report back, yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I just was wondering also if you would take the opportunity to go back and look at the, I didn't like to use the word wish list, but
Yeah.
when we had our meeting
Yeah.
of the council to look at things that we would like, see if there's anything on there that jumps out.
Yeah, that's a good point. So as a part of this process, so when we completed the biennial budget, there was a list of mid-year review items.
Right,
That we
exactly.
did not fund in the original budget. So I have that list.
Okay.
The mayor has a list, and so we'll put that on this mid-year review and say, here's the list that we talked about. Can we fund these? Do you guys still want to fund these? Does it make sense? Is there anything else that's highlighted?
When we had our retreat,
Yes.
yeah, we put that all together.
Yeah.
And then finance will get a first look at it, so that'll be a good idea. Thank you,
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good reminder.
Any other questions? All right. We're on to discussion item D, the general sewer plan presentation.
That was it.
Mr. Ryan, Mr. Cook, or was there more?
No, that was it.
Okay.
That's quick, that's quick. I was like,
Just check in.
Introduction.
You got off
Tell
easy.
me what the schedule is for the
you
next
make
2
it
months.
quick, we're all out tonight.
Yeah, all about efficiency. All right,
My computer.
you guys are leading the show.
Thank you. I read
So
that.
it's
kind of a joint effort. So we have today with us Consor Engineering. We have Erica Schuyler and Adam Schuyler, and I'll give it my seat in a moment here, but I'll just give a quick overview that we update our general sewer plan every 6 to 10 years. So we are at the culmination of a project that started about 2 years ago, shortly before I started working here. Consor was retained to do our general sewer plan update. Oh, go ahead.
No, when you're done.
Oh, yeah, and so this is the culmination. This is 2 separate projects as the sewer rate study that was done by the FCS group. There's been coordination and discussion between Consor and FCS group. Noah's going to discuss tonight at the conclusion of the presentation by Consor, what the impacts of the utility rates and how it marries up to the general sewer plan update. There was more that I was going to tell you, but I'm taking a long time. So we have about an hour with Consor. This is a very big body of work. I apologize getting it to you late, getting it all together, trying to meet this end of the year goal of getting this approved ahead of the next year. It's a big undertaking, but we're there. I welcome anybody to dig deep into any of the chapters that they want to ask. So Consor presented this to the utility committee last week, and so this will be a little bit more in depth. So go ahead.
I just was curious, when was the last rate change done? I didn't notice that it was in the
For
statute.
the sewer,
Yeah,
2020
sorry,
was it?
our last rate adjustment was in 2020,
Yep.
and that was from a body of work from 2015. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I'm going to give up my seat here.
I'm gonna see if there's some extra chairs back here.
I can
And I can stand on, I don't mind standing as long as it's.
I'll grab another chair.
I just don't know how to get slides.
You
I know how to.
usually say next. That usually works for us.
Don't say that, one Helen, so,
Give me a
I'm not
phase,
standing,
one
I'm
of
happy
the
to
days.
sit, what do you prefer?
Yeah, so it's not all at once. The phase it is, like, so they adopted the rate structure, which included a phase. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just
because
remind
it's
me,
got-
the microphone's
it's got
up there,
phase
so you gotta
structure.
speak loud. So,
Okay.
shall I go?
Yeah, please,
All right,
please
well,
go.
thanks for having us. We gave this very same presentation to the utility committee, so don't expect anything exciting and new, but we can talk about the questions that you have, if you have them, since we had this conversation last week. But if you skip to the next slide, I don't know who that is. Oh, perfect. We'll give you a little bit. So as Dennis indicated, we're here to talk to you about the general sewer plan process. it gives a very easy look, visual aid rather, to see where we are complying with those WAC standards requirements. Chapter 2, we move into your city policies and standards, and each of these 7 topics here has a discussion item within the plan. Chapter 2 doesn't have any really great maps, so I didn't include a snapshot of any of the maps, but we talk about the city goals, we talk about the standards that you have both for design and construction, we talk about development, grinder systems, step systems, so we really talk about all of what is available in the city currently and tie it back into the city goals.
And for this one, we didn't do any updates to the policies. It was just a summary of the existing policies.
The service area characteristics is chapter 3, and this is where we get into a lot of nice maps, so you can really see different areas, or sorry, different maps that show land use and zoning or topography and geology. This is all showing how the sewer system engages with the different critical areas, sensitive areas. Your growth management act has a map as well in there, so really talking about the service area and how the city, is providing that service to your customers. Chapter 4 talks about population, both existing and future. This is where we look at both residential and employment population, and this is how we're building this. We're building this plan to really give you a snapshot of where you need to go for the next 6 and 20 years, and knowing how much you're going to grow and what you're projected to grow, or how you're projected to grow is very important. And so we get this information from PSRC and with other different regional entities that give population, and then towards the future as well. And I mentioned again, 6 and 20 years is what the CIP is looking for or towards. Chapter 5, we take a look at your existing facilities. So we have nice maps that show your existing mini basins or sewer service basins. We show the piping and the lift stations, and then go into the lift station condition assessment. We also do have a planned mini basins map within chapter 5 to look out into the future of it.
And the way those basins are broken out is it's a hydraulically discrete area, so it's where all of the sewers within whatever the color would be flow to a single point, which is typically a pump station, and sometimes it's a gravity main, but it is hydraulically driven how we break the city up throughout, or break the sewer system up across the city.
We talk about wastewater flows in chapter 6, and this is where we're analyzing your existing wastewater flows, taking a
this body of work started in 2023, and as you mentioned, that's where they kind of drew the line in the sand, and that was the starting point for this plan. But staff had a very collaborative interaction as far as what our current needs are, and that's how the CIP, the 6-year CIP was established. So you'll see some numbers and demographics as far as population. It was referenced at that point in time. And if you recall our sorry, go ahead.
No, after you're finished, I'll
Yep.
make a comment.
And our water system plan, it was very similar, and it's even further behind the line in the sand because it was the COVID and there was a big delay. So just a little history while you were trying to figure that out.
That comment was just about population growth, that sometimes, like with the school district, when they show enrollment, they'll show a high and a low projection, and this is where we think we're going. And I asked that, the modeling, and the modeling, correct me if I'm wrong, is just based, a baseline, one snapshot in time. So, as opposed to other times, you may look at a high and a low as it goes out through the future about how our growth is much more than we've been expecting, so.
Yeah, because there's a number in there, and back in that chapter that talked about population, it said 2022's number was 13,000.
Yep.
Where did we get that number? Because we're way.
Right, and we did add a note after the staff reviewed it, because we know that we're following your comp plan, right? So parts a little bit before the horse or vice versa. And so we are off a little bit, but the general sewer plan numbers are actually more conservative with the numbers of population that we're projecting. And so I think it's about 2,000 persons that are.
Yeah, well, to answer the question about 2022, we just interpolated it from the 2020 data out to 22. Well, I think PRSC might have done that. PSRC may have done that.
Because that would have been wrong that time.
But
too,
it
right? So-
was taken there because you don't actually have there's not a counted number. I can't remember. I just forgot. The census number. Gosh. Yeah, a census number there. So it is a projection at that point. If there is stronger data sources, it would be good to know those. It would not impact anything in the plan unless it was off by 10,000 people. But there's, with the design of the facilities, and even what Erica was starting to allude to, I apologize, I interrupted, is there were updated population projections as part of your comprehensive plan that I think was published in December of 24. And we are, you actually
I
said,
think it was about 2,000 difference.
we projected 2,000 more people than what the 2024, but it's not enough that it would impact the capital improvement plan that has been presented in this plan, because you're spreading that 2,000 out.
Okay, and I just wasn't sure if that was
I
a
think
different number than actual population.
I think that number was born out of 2016 and implementation at that time, and maybe it was carried forward. I'm just guessing at this point, but that was the prior update to 2020.
I got a question.
So I just want to make sure we get back and finish that, because I think the numbers that came out for the beginning of this year was like, we're at 19.3 or something.
Sure.
That doesn't impact your future numbers, knowing we're that far ahead to where we're at. I mean, the delta there to, I think, 10 years from now is like 4,000, which
Right.
will not be any way, shape, or form accurate.
Right. And we've had, Dennis and I have this conversation too, because we recognize that, this plan and the numbering and now with the continued growth that you're seeing, what we're gonna look at potentially is taking the capital improvements that we're proposing and running the model with an adjusted population to see if things change. But they probably won't, but I don't know, we'll have to.
I mean,
we'll have to say
if all
that.
2,000 went into
Yeah.
one spot and into one pipe, that would impact. But because there are focus areas
Yeah.
where the growth is. Yeah,
Just
but-
a little in there.
Yeah.
Just a little.
I do want to mention that because we were able to engage into the process here, we had our comp plan that was just recently completed. That 6-year CIP mimics this 6-year CIP. So we were able to get that.
Okay. So I'm just trying to understand all this. In 2000 I owned my house up there 2015, and now we're 2025. But it did increase only like 13 annually, and now here we are. And I remember calling, I don't know what it was, but it was after 2020. I was saying, hey, there's a $20 increase, and I was curious about that. And that's up to date, and it keeps going, $20 increment. And I go, did you guys get a pay raise? And they said, no, this is for all, what we're doing here. And so now, here we are, and so I'm kind of curious, because I brought my bill.
What are you referring to?
I'm referring, so when we do all
Are you
this,
talking about rates right now?
well, I'm talking about rates, but don't we want to increase the 3.5%? Isn't that what we're doing right now?
No, this is different.
This is-
This is the general sewer plan.
Yeah.
That's the rate study, so they're presenting the plan study.
Just the plan, okay, well then
Yeah,
I want
after
to,
the plan, we'll talk a little bit about rates, but that'll be kind of the tail end of their presentation.
okay, well, and then I want to talk about that, because I have all this stuff, and it talks about Bainbridge is even on this, and all this, so, okay, then I'll talk about all my study after this.
Hold that to tail end.
Okay.
Dennis, is our asset management systems up to date?
We did quite a bit of updating to this. There's constant improvement, right? We're still in the process of TV in the city. We have not been completely through the city.
That's what I'm curious about, because when it lists up, I'm just curious, like, where do you get your assets from to use for this?
GIS, the city's GIS program helps build our model and whatnot. Is that what you're asking? How did we build?
A little bit deeper
this
than that.
map?
Not the map. Like, we're talking about like replacements of certain things and life expectancy of, the assets that we have, right? Lift stations to airbags to, you name it, right? I mean, everything that's wrong with an asset that we have to work on. I'm curious where you get your assets from, because we're not fully implemented on that. So I'm curious, like, how do we know what we need to budget for? How many lines need replaced when we don't even have that information?
I think you're asking about the accuracy of it.
The accuracy of it,
I
correct?
can hit that. I mean,
Please, yeah.
that's continuous improvement. We've got the video van. We haven't been through the entire city.
No.
But I mean, so.
I agree.
So there's so many unknowns, yes.
Correct. I agree with you 100%. That's why I'm asking the question, is because what you're saying right now is, here we're talking about the plan moving forward, and I'm curious, where do you get your data from of
Yep.
what assets need updated, what to expect when we don't have that?
How did you come to rely on your figures?
We don't have that.
So, back when I first started working on this, I actually went to the ops building over, off of Clifton, and went up into the mezzanine and thumbed through as-built drawings to try to get dates on things. And so it has been just a collection of data. Some through, was it the 2 J's that were here for a long time on the ops side? Interviewing them, finding out the age of pipes, problem pipes, and it's just kind of continued to build. And so we know some of the age because of as-built drawings, construction photos, those sorts of things, especially for facilities. So the pump stations we feel pretty good about. Pipes, because you haven't gone through the whole city yet, not sure about the conditions, so we may look at one that was installed in, let's say, the 80s as part of a neighborhood. Well, you're looking at 40 years old now. Pipes have a 50 to 100-year lifespan, so we're looking at that, saying, okay, this would be a watch area. And to address that, there's just a number, and I don't remember, I looked at you because I don't remember exactly how the number came about, but there is a pipe replacement number to cover those unknowns. That is just an annual amount that is focused on just pipe replacement.
So we're just going off of basically life expectancy.
Correct.
of the assets that you have.
Life
So-
expectancy, or it's anticipated design life based on now historical, as our infrastructure is now 100, not here, but just 150 years old or so. And then on pump stations, mechanical,
Correct.
you're looking at 25 years for mechanical. And so that's just an automatic trigger. Start looking at it. Then we talk to the ops guys, hey, what are there issues here? known issues, and stuff will rise to the top that could be 18 years old because of issues, and there's stuff that's 35 years old that's cruising along. And so through the CIP prioritization, working with Dennis and his team, working with the ops guys, we come up with the plan of here's what's needed for the next 6 years. And then everything that's not imminent, you just kind of push out to 20, so you've documented it, and then stuff move. I mean, day one after this is approved by ecology, the plan it's a living document, so it just keeps moving. But yeah, so it's historical knowledge, historical data. Now with the models and with GIS, more stuff is getting documented, so as you move forward, you're looking back through a more concise database than sending the EIT up into the mezzanine.
Yeah.
But we did condition assessments for your lift stations as part of this, so we were on site in those stations, you know, looking.
That's what I was wondering.
Visual,
Yeah, correct.
right? We weren't getting into
No, of course not, yeah.
stuff, but there was documentation of that in the plan, and then you can see, you know, we talked about length of pipe and how old and how many feet of X diameter, inch diameter pipe and how old it is and that sort of thing. And so when we're looking at the CIP then too, sometimes with the pipe especially, we kind of just apply X many feet per year is soon to be replaced, right? Unless there are the areas that we have TV information on, or that we've heard that, you know, has real IMI issues or really, you know, keeps failing and we have to keep fixing it, so then that's part of the, you know, rises to the top.
Or it could be you get some different types of pipe, right?
Correct.
I mean, there's probably some clay still in some
Oh,
places,
yeah,
right? So you gotta, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And ecology cares most about capacity. So
For sure.
the model kicks out, is through the model and then through observation from the O&M staff. Anything that's capacity automatically goes to the top. That is the number one trigger. And then obsolescence follows that.
Okay.
And I will fully acknowledge, once we're through our entire system, the worse the situation is gonna be because we're gonna know what's there.
Right.
This is a very old city with some very, very old infrastructure. We did a pavement repair out front today. We have a hand-built manhole, right, on brick. So we have very, very old infrastructure, and once we know, once we have that information, the need is gonna grow.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of curious about. How do you, how that, thank you, appreciate it.
So I just want to make sure I was crystal clear on my question earlier. Everything about this plan, you said you built in $10,000 or 10,000 population differential. We shouldn't have.
It wasn't 10,000.
2,000.
2,000, I think, and so we are, yeah, it's more conservative than, you know, by a little bit than what.
Because our current today population to what we have planned in this plan in 2030, that delta is 3172. And at the rate of our growth, we think we'll probably be there.
We'll blow through.
Yeah, within 2 years to get it. So
But
just saying. So
Is this population data used for this, is it the same population data that he's, because you're referring to the city's population?
that's what I'm
No,
asking.
this
That's
is-
my original
This
question.
is the sewer
Right, it's only the sewer
population.
population.
Okay.
So you do have,
Okay,
yes,
okay,
that's
so
right.
then that could be where this 13 comes from. Okay, that's what I was.
Sorry, that was a good
making sure I was
clarification. I didn't think
clear
about
on that earlier.
I see what you're saying.
And that's why these are.
That's what I asked, right?
Yeah.
Well, and these are, plans that don't, you know, it's not one you do every 30 years, it's especially in, you know.
Well, and to your point, because not South Kitsap, what's the other?
West Sound Utility District.
They take off a portion of the city, maybe turn around off this way. And so, yeah, that would not count as part of your Seward population, so you've got that whole swath going off, so.
And I know it's beating a dead horse to get back on it, but I agree with John because a lot of our growth is west right now, and it continues to grow at a rapid rate. You know, also with folks from Bremerton that are, you know, they're in there. But I think we're well covered, and like you said, it's a living document, so that's it. I'm done.
Okay. Okay. After we get through the capital improvement planning, we look at the financial program, and I think as Dennis mentioned, this was a kind of a two-part effort. FCS Group did a whole sewer rate study. We used a different consultant to help us take that information from FCS and make it suitable for the general sewer plan. Anyway, so we talk about
that's the case, because I don't think they are distributing any reclaimed water. It's just going for stream augmentation.
So that's the overview of the plan. Next steps, obviously, we've had a couple meetings now with you fine folks, and then it will need to, have any further comment before it's adopted. It needs to go to ecology also for their review. So,
How long does that normally take?
well, Madison Diaz is who we've been working with. I think she's going on parental leave, however, so I'm not sure who's stepping in for her. But she's pretty quick with her turnaround, to be honest.
There is a regulatory requirement of 60 working days.
16?
60.
Oh, 16.
So 3 months.
Oh, 16 is fast.
Yeah. So,
But it is, ecology and health are both having a hard time due to staffing meeting those. But they've been, Madison has been hitting the 60 days, but again, she imminently going on parental leave.
yes.
So with what was brought up by Eric about the asset management plan being updated, what is the requirement to update the plan? And if so, should we look at updating it a little bit sooner? Because as we put all of our assets in, as you were talking about, Eric, it's obviously going to make a difference in the impact of the plan. So
There is not a requirement to have an asset management, there's not a regulatory requirement for a certain asset management system. But as you are spending more time getting to know what the condition of your system is, it's probably time, and with the growth in the city, it's probably time to look at looking at a asset management system. You can get them that are tied into your models. And so
no, we have one. What I was asking was, go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead, Eric.
You should update the plan
No,
more frequently once
that's-
you're given more information.
That's what I was
what
wondering.
do you, I apologize, I don't
No,
know, what do you guys use for?
Cartograph Open Go.
Oh, okay.
But if when you get your Lions TV and everything kind of into that program, and given your population, I mean, you could look at another update for the general sewer plan.
Or
But-
even an amendment to this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I doubt you're gonna, for the time that it takes to do the camera and all that, you're probably not gonna get too far ahead of another update.
Okay.
And
That's
there is
what-
no regulatory requirement for sewer plan updates like there
Okay.
are for water.
Right.
Water is a dictated 10 years. So if you were to see either growth fall off or growth even surprise you more than it is, that would be a driver to take a look at the plan again. The good thing though with the modeling and those sorts of things is you can be constantly looking at your system through the model for capacity issues that won't address the obsolescence issues, but.
Thank you.
And it's a requirement too to have new development.
So we got an online comment or question from Director Nick Baum.
I was just going to mention concerning the schedule of updating the sewer plan. One of the things that DCD would recommend is that we get these technical plans on the same cycle as our comprehensive plan, so that when we adopt new growth targets, we are doing the system planning at the same time. Because the GMA does require that your capital facilities plan, which lists all your planned projects, be consistent with your comprehensive plan. And so, ideally, I know Paulsbo did all of their system plans together with their comp plan, and so that's a place that I would recommend that we get to. But our next comprehensive plan update is not until 2034, I believe, is the new deadline under the new 10-year schedule, and so that work will start in 2032.
Thank you, Nick.
And I did want to say too that I believe it is our 6-year CIP. I keep shutting it down, but we do have it as a placeholder at the end of our CIP that we will start the process again. So it's identified as part of the funding.
Yep, just keep cycling.
Cool.
Okay.
Good.
Is there?
There's no more slides.
Well, you want to talk about reclaimed water? I'm curious.
So,
I know about it.
what's that?
Are you talking about West Sound?
So this chapter 11, we have that, and there's a chapter for it because it is
so it's West Sound, and it's the purple pipe,
Yep.
and I don't believe they're using it for anything.
It's just
Okay.
sitting there.
Yeah, it just discharges out and then goes into Sinclair Inlet right now.
Okay.
Thank you, it was awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Look forward to seeing future recommendations. Did you have a follow-on that you
Well,
wanted?
I wanted to talk about money, but I got cut off, so whenever I can, let me do that.
Are we good with concert team?
I have a question. So, we were talking with this finance committee and there that, one of the recommendations is we were looking at staffing levels. So we're just- Can you just talk a little about what you saw in staffing levels compared to our assets and?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, I believe, I'm gonna find it, so we're looking at this on our trip over, but we compared again your assets to your staff and looked at, here we go. It's, section 10.4 when you get to that, but we looked at, staff based on pipe and staff based on lift station. And your.
Which are common metrics
For a
compared,
sewer.
like 100,000 feet of pipe and then per lift, like number of staff per lift station.
So looked at employees per 100,000 linear feet of pipe and per pump station. And you come up with about 1.05 employees for your length of sewer pipe and 0.2 employees for your pump stations. And so looking at the average, we looked at a bunch of different cities as well as districts and compared what their staffing levels are to yours. And, the average employee, for that 100,000 linear feet of pipe was 2.1. So you're off by about an employee because cities at 1.05 versus that 2.1. And then for the lift station, the average employee per pump station or lift station is 1.23. And again, you were at 0.2. So there's an employee a delta there. So that's how we came up with the 2 additional staff.
And it's compared against the average too, because
Right.
there is a range there.
Right, yeah, I was just gonna say, because West Sound Utilities District, even though that's length of pipe, that's also those 15 employees, does their whole the whole sewage plant,
Right.
where we don't have a sewage plant, so
Right.
you almost have to throw that one out. That's on the high side.
Yes.
By staffing, are we discussing field staff, maintenance staff?
Yes.
Yeah, because when you have someone that just works in the office, right, oversees lift stations, all that jazz, then you
Yeah.
have someone running Vector doing flushing, someone doing TV, and,
We have 4.5 employees
for sewer,
for sewer.
4.
That's field employees. So
Okay.
that 0.5 employee is our city electrician who does everything.
Sure. How many, it doesn't matter, how many storm employees we have?
We have, I don't have it in front of me, but I can tell you that this year.
How many
it was,
water employees we have?
I think we're at 7 or 8.
Good stuff.
And streets is low, because I know it's coming next, and so is parks.
Storms 2.
Yeah.
But pretty long. It's 1
What's that?
storm. We have 2 field staff.
I think it's.
I think it's 2, from what I've heard. Just rumors. Is there like, I'm asking as far as, is 7 a lot? For water? Is that a lot?
I can tell you that,
I mean, seven for water and 4 for sewer. If we need to increase 1, you slide somebody over? Because
I don't know how to answer that.
for every home that has water, we have sewer.
Yes. So it's the funding, so the 7 employees, half of one is the
The electrician that we
electrician.
share.
So we have a lead, we don't have a water quality specialist, we are operating 2 separate water systems. And the amount of wells and reservoirs we have, maintenance is pretty,
That exceeds lift stations.
yeah. Well, the number of lift stations is
Yeah, no.
astronomical, but yeah. Do you have any insight?
I knew you were gonna ask me that.
Yes.
I don't have that on
Okay.
my head either. To me, it seems low because I know your system and how many things you're operating, but.
So I'll just relate it to where I was previously. Their population was very similar when I left to here. I think they were like at 22 or 23,000. I believe we had 11 water employees. Any of the field crews, I always break it down that you should have, I mean, you can't go work out on the road with 3 employees or 4 employees because you have to have traffic control.
Sure.
You gotta have truck, driver, operator, ground person. If you're running the factory, you gotta have 2 people.
To find space, you have to have, it's
Yeah,
all.
you have to have an attendant,
Yeah.
so.
I was wondering if those numbers were normal, you know, for going over that.
They're,
I think what we talked about is when we added FTEs in this last budget cycle,
We
right?
did,
Yeah.
And we added them because we were doing this water meter replacement project, right?
Correct.
We were replacing all the meters, we run radios, so we go AMI. So we added FTEs just for that purpose. So the deal we had was, hey, these guys are gonna focus on doing this project, so we could get there as quick as possible, as cost effective as possible. And we're still not done with that project. We're close. We're like, what, 47 manual replacements away, but those are big, tough ones now. So
Have we gained a 0.5 though with our new meters?
well, here's the challenge is this is one reason we want to AMI, is that you have such turnover at the water meter reading
Oh.
position.
Okay.
You're constantly getting guys in, training them up, and they're gone 3 months. So that was the selling point to going AMI in radio reads, is that you wouldn't necessarily have to have this revolving door at your meter reading
Correct,
position.
yeah.
So a couple reasons why we're on the staff level, that's always up and down. And this year in particular, we have some staff that have been in and out with different issues. So we've not been at full capacity all year. And that's been the reason why our project didn't quite come to the timeline we had originally hoped. But you kind of roll with people's personal lives. So I don't know if we do have full 7 individuals. I think we have 7 FTEs as a count in my
Yeah.
payroll table. But I don't know if we actually have 7 people on the ground. I think that's where I was trying to go in my mind. Name out names, and I couldn't get there. So I think I'm missing 2 in my mind right now.
Gotta use
So
fingers,
once the project, you talked about hiring for this project, but once the project is complete, then are you just gonna look at attrition to maintain a different, lower staffing number?
I think once we get there, then we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Okay.
So we want to get there as soon as possible, but,
And what's the expectation? There's only 47 left.
well, these are the manual ones, and so these are more difficult, they take more time than the other ones that we've been doing. So we're also putting in new ones for new development, and now we're going to the old city, digging up old pipes, putting in bigger boxes, so they take longer. I don't know
What's the-
if we have an estimate on when we'll have those 47.
Yeah, that was my question. Do you have a time budget for how long it might take?
they're extensive work. Some of them where they're located is problematic, where the property line is compared to where the meter's located. So these are the most challenging. And
So
So
we
I
have,
hear the answer
we
is
have-
no.
No.
We have no expectation. Can we look into seeing where we think
yeah.
that could be?
I'm not sure I'm following the question.
So I think this is what we need to do is, you know how we have the regular water meter meeting? And
Correct.
we haven't had for a month because of staff issues. So we need to reschedule that and get a check-in with the team to see if, kind of work plan of when they think they'll get the 47 completed manual placements.
So what's the end game that we're looking for? Like, what to answer the question?
What they're wanting to know is when will we have this project wrapped up?
Okay.
So that we can actually gain some capacity in our FTEs.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And then what would we do with that FTE? Is it possible we would reposition that FTE in the sewer program rather than the water program?
So staffing, you slide staffing around, right? I'm not sure how your union works, but like slide staffing around. I mean, budget's budget, right? You're not using sewer dollars for storm dollars, you're not fixing
Right.
those.
Right.
But staffing wise,
Right.
that's what I was kind of curious about, was how
Jay,
to
did
balance
you
that.
No, I was just gonna ask that this is a staffing issue which may also run into budget, that it may be time to move on to the other project, because the consort was here talking about sewer capacity, and I don't wanna delay them from finishing their discussion and then letting them go, and then we move into the
Erica's
next.
interested, Erica is
Then we move
interested.
in, yeah.
I think it was a fair question, and when I
Okay.
asked Jeff, who was our operations manager, that same question, he said, no, I can use 7 FTE for the water program. I said, okay, we'll have to have that discussion once we get to the end of the project, and you have to lay this out to council, what is it they're going to be doing?
Or near the
Right.
end?
He said, by the time we get there, that's gonna be, a certain amount of time, we're gonna have more demands, we're gonna have more wells online,
Right.
we have a lot of maintenance that we're not
Right.
doing, that we need to be doing. Similar story, I'm gonna wrap this back to sewer, back to what you guys are saying as far as what we're not doing in the sewer program. And so I think that's why I wanted to hit on what your findings were for FTEs. Because I think the question I would ask if you guys, well, if we get these 2 guys, what are they going to be doing? I just don't understand it myself, I don't know. So maybe you can do that.
So our lift station maintenance, that's one of the things that we've identified in our asset management that we need to be proactive on. We have this $20 million facility. It's the biggest sewer facility the city's ever had. So regular reoccurring maintenance. There's things that we're doing that are proactive that are in the CIP, lift station controls. We're about to be fully automated with alarm systems. The TV inspection, that is huge. It's gonna come with bad news, probably, just
And the TV inspection, you need 2 crew to do that at least.
two people. There's 2 people, and
If you
sometimes,
have 4, you're already have a crew pulling TV.
sometimes you need 4, because it's out in the traffic, so you have to flag it. So if you got 4 sewer people, and then you also have to clean the lines before you TV it, so.
And this has never been done, as I understand.
We've been pecking away at it. It's not going as fast as anybody would like. Because before you TV it, you gotta clean it. So that's 2 people in the Vector. It's 2 people in the TV truck. That's 2 flaggers. It's, yes.
So the answer is no?
Know that we haven't TV'd it?
It's never been done?
We've started, we've been TVing.
Have we completely TV'd?
Not the entire system, no. No.
But they had before we were speaking outside my expertise at this point, so maybe Dennis can weigh in if he knows the history, but we had contracted that work out prior to 2018, I want to
Yeah,
say.
we brought the truck.
And then we made a decision to invest and do it ourselves and buy the TV truck and equip it with an FTE and then go with it. But so we did contract out that work.
So our last known full TV was 2018?
It was not full.
Not
It
full.
wasn't?
It wasn't full.
It wasn't.
So that was, that.
So
Okay.
historically, people will go, agencies will go out and they'll contract and they'll do like 2 weeks a year. Just try to see what their worst area is, and it's assumptions, right? It's like what the crew's talking about, where their problem spots are. That's where they'll go. That's where they're going to go and target. Some NPDS requirements for stormwater, you got to do so many weeks of your TV inspection. So, but no.
What percentage of the city has one complete?
I don't have that answer. That's stuff we're still building out in asset management. And we've only had the program for a year, just over a year.
But even when you go to smoke test the lines,
Yes.
I mean, then you're gonna have to have, flaggers, someone running the smoker, someone chasing it. I mean, that's 6, 7 people on that crew. It's a full crew.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I don't have
We don't
good
know where we're at, we don't know what percentage
As
we'll
far,
have done
I
by
could,
the end of
I
the
could
year.
find out and tell you pretty quickly. I'll follow up with
And
that.
was there an expectation set by council when we invested in that equipment?
Yes, there always is an expectation, but other things take precedence with that.
It is very
We're not-
common that the TV gets pushed to the side because it's proactive and you have to be reactive at times. So it's not uncommon that is what is sacrificed when there are other issues. in the
Is there a
system.
state requirement though, how many lines need to be inspected? No, not for that, not for,
And I think it's helpful to remember that we are transitioning as a city to be more specialized. So for the longest time, the city policy was the public works command could do anything. There were water, sewer, parks, street. So when you talk about the priorities, sewer wasn't always the highest priority, right? We had your streets and parks were your summer priorities, so that would take it back. And you only had the same amount of FTEs and we had less FTEs than we do today. So again, we're growing, we're building, we're trying to put the right things in place, specialize our departments, have the water team, have a sewer team, specializing, dedicated to projects that we're accomplishing, checking off boxes, right? And it's, welcome to the team, and we're
Yeah,
transitioning, doing it.
I'm just looking for efficiency, right?
So-
Yeah,
That's where I do my best work, how can you know where you're gonna be by the end of the year if you don't know where you're at?
What your benchmarks are. And we have it, I just don't know what it is. I will fully state that our current state is we are 100% reactionary. There's opportunities where we're becoming proactive. I feel like we're turning a corner. We are up to 26 full-time employees, and I believe when I started 2 years ago, we were at 21 or 20. So if you think about that in perspective, you have the people the size of a classroom that are maintaining every bit of the city's infrastructure. So we're short.
We're short, and
So,
and
I'm gonna combat that, right?
Yes.
I have half the employees I had a year ago.
Maintaining the entire city?
No, running my business, and I have seen a 15% decrease in revenues and outputs, right? So it not always how people, but the point is,
Yeah, I agree.
it can be about efficiency too.
We have to do it safely too. So, and our rules, I will always remind everybody, our rules that we have to follow are a little bit more stringent than private contractors. We have to follow prevailing wage rules, low bid. It's not the same market conditions, like a contractor. So that's what we run up against. So.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to move us on now if we could. I think we've
Yeah.
going down a
I
rabbit
think
hole here.
I think we're gonna reserve some time for you, but at the end, maybe just with no. If we can let them get through the remainder.
I thought they were done.
Yeah, we're
So
done.
that's the end of my presentation.
All right.
We have 2 more large presentations to go.
But I had major questions on billing, and that was part of this whole,
No, this is the next
Thing.
discussion. This is not with Consort. This
no,
is-
not with them.
Yes.
The following.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you got?
I was going to say thank you.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And go Cougs.
All right.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Are you sharing again? Or do you want me to share?
Okay, so I just want to briefly touch on this, following up on their presentation, the rates. So this is what I have to talk about. Again, actually, I'll start with, oh, this is working. Start with this timeline. Okay, so just to kind of reorient everybody with how long we've been working on the sewer study. We contracted with the FCS group in July 2023, so it's been nearly 18 months working on the sewer study. We discussed this at the utility committee on June 10th this year. They presented their findings. They presented the work study that night. That we then discussed one more time with the finance committee on the 17th meeting. They finished their draft report, which should be in your packets, around August 6th. So they have the draft report ready to be finalized. There's been comments from staff, similar to how Councilor was waiting for comments on staff. And here we are tonight, talking about the GSP. And I just want to get in touch, remind everybody that we've discussed it several times. We anticipate having a public hearing on the sewer rates next Tuesday. So we'll open a public hearing, allow the public to come comment, and close the public hearing. There's no action, it's just a public hearing. With an anticipated action date of October 14th, which is the first meeting in October, to set sewer rates. And this will allow us to have sewer rates go into effect as of January 1st, 2026. Again, this is all consistent with the plan and what we talked about throughout the year. So with that, I just want to kind of go back. Go back to what the sewer rate proposal is currently. There we go. So again, just as a brief reminder, the FCS group did a forecast of expenses for the next 6 years. So they identified how much funding we need, we would need to operate, and then they just did a calculation to see how much revenue we would need. And what they found is that we would need to raise revenue by roughly about 3.5% to meet our obligations over the next 6 years. So that is the first line up there at the table, is that if we do nothing as far as rate structure, we would have, it puts a 3.5% increase to the rates to meet our financial obligations over the next 6 years from 25 to 2030. But part of that work, Finance Department asked them to look at our non-residential structure, where we have 20 plus different rates, and we wanted to simplify that. We talked this before, but it's a very complex structure, it's inefficient, and we would prefer something more administratively friendly. So they proposed and did the work that we would go to this residential rate and non-residential rate, and that's the bottom table there. So, under this new structure, the residential rate proposal would be $151. Again, our current rates are $163. So they're proposing there would be a decrease in residential rates starting in 2025 through 2030. And we'd be introducing a new rate, a non-residential rate, that would replace the non-residential rate table of the 20 plus different categories. This table then meets the financial plan outlined by FCS Group and is consistent with the GSP. So that's just a reminder on that. The second table I have now for your consideration is involving the two FTEs that came up in Consort's work. So the FCS Group's study was finalized. They were on a parallel path, but Consort was still doing their work on the O&M. And so Consort identified that there was a deficiency in FTEs and that they recommended additional FTEs to fully maintain the system. That's what I was trying to push them to talk about that a little bit more. That was their recommendation. So after we learned that, we went back to FCS Group and asked them to recalculate the rate if council were to fund those FTEs. If the council said yes, we support that, we think that makes sense, and assuming Dennis asks for that, what would the rates need to be to support that? Because now would be the time to embed those costs into our next 6-year plan. So with those costs, it only costs about $1.50 more on non-residential and residential rates. So it'd be $153 rather than $151 in 2026. So I'm just gonna leave that up there because that's kind of why I wanted to introduce to you guys. We talked to the finance committee. I don't know if the finance committee wants to weigh on anything as far as our discussion. But that's what I need from this group tonight is direction on the rates because we'll have the public hearing next week. I have a crafted ordinance with the original rate design with the non-residential and residential rates that we've talked about back in June. So decision is any direction different with the two FTEs.
So just, this may be simplifying it, but basically we're trying to make it more equitable for the users, is the way I read it. In other words, the residential had been carrying part of the total cost, and this is now based on ERUs as opposed to, was it 21 that we had different rates that we had based on what type of business, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
So it's directly ERU related.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable to me. What did you guys talk about?
Well, our only real thought on it, I mean, I think we all agreed that it was a smart thing to do. Our only real discussion topic revolved around whether we had this 4.5% increase per year or we averaged it out and just had a flat cost for the next, through 2030.
I'm sorry, I'm missing you on that one.
So I think the average on this is gonna be, if you take 153.05 and you go to 182, the average is like 167 and some change. So rather than starting at 153, just started this coming year at 167 and some change and remaining stable with that.
Oh, I see, okay. A flat rate across for those, I got you now, okay.
And your recommendation was not to do that, but to step it.
Well, we really didn't come to any agreement or conclusion on
That's
that.
the way it is now, right? It's staff and I said, if you just take those dollar averages and you average them over the same 5 years, your average is $167 and
Right.
40 some, it was just under 50 cents, whatever the actual number was, which was about 2.7% increase, which is a lot easier to stomach rather than,
Right, except you're asking people to pay, people are paying a little bit more forward for a stable
for a stable
rate
as opposed
over the
to
5 years.
Yeah, because the one person I had, well, you're still getting me to 183 at the end.
I got that part.
And
It's
it's
just
never gonna come back down, and I did
for those 5
put
years.
them back and said,
Yeah.
well, we are trying to say that we're trying to take utilities down. You don't see that very often, but never say never is what I said back. But they're like, it just feels like a bait and switch. You're trying to butter me up today to get me to that number because when 2030 comes along, I hear you.
Yeah.
I get it.
There's two
And all
ways,
we've done is increase.
right,
with this
and
council.
there's two ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
Here's the kicker on
saying we have it next week for community input, is that right? For they, to talk, is that, are they only getting 1 week notice? Where are we putting that out for our community? Because I just heard that we're supposed to do 2 weeks for a community input. So is that, I didn't see it on our government page, is it in the newspaper? Because this is really important for community input, and, here we have a topic tonight.
For us, Brandy, what is the normal advertising to get public notice for a public hearing?
I just heard.
So in general, the rule is 5 to 7 days.
So it's 5 to 7 days, I thought
So
I heard.
she's referring to a budget, which is different than public hearing for revenue.
Certain topics of rate changes or certain public hearings, the statute will dictate how long you have to give the public notice. This particular section, and Charlie can confirm if this is correct, but there is not a set timeline, so the average is 5 to 7 days is what we historically have done.
Okay, so
Is
I
that
think,
correct, Charlie?
Correct, yeah. The 2 weeks notice, Councilwoman, is for budget hearings, and that's not what this is. That's a different statutory requirement.
okay, so I would think this would get out tomorrow, which would be a week or 5 days for the community to weigh in on the government page or whatever, because it's Tuesday, and that would be 7 days next week. So I'm always concerned about the public knowing and transparency of what's going on. So that's one thing. And then, also on a few things, now,
Can I just also, no, I don't remember your previous slide, but I believe the next meeting is just a hearing, no action, and then you'll do a second hearing 2 weeks after that, so it'll probably be about 3 to 4 weeks before the council actually makes a final decision on it, is that correct?
Yeah, I believe, you probably just correct me if I'm wrong, I believe I'm required to hold 1 public hearing, so that was gonna be next week.
Uh-huh.
But the action may not take place until October 14th.
yeah, oh, that's
And
great.
there'll be another
That's
hearing.
plenty of time. Okay,
Well, I wouldn't plan a second public hearing on the same night of action, but we can, I just following.
They have the opportunity to speak about the rate changes.
Oh, sure,
in
sure.
Yeah.
addition to
Yeah.
next week.
yeah.
Correct.
Okay, good. Now, I was going over, my computer died, I didn't get it, I guess it was ready yesterday, but it's dead, so that's why I got some of my notes. Now, on page 19, I have 3.5. This up here,
Yeah, so.
you're saying 4.5, so I feel like my notes didn't have that on
Those
here.
are revised costs, you'll see at the top. That does not, we did
So,
not expect that.
I started this conversation by saying, I'll go back one slide, here's
Yeah.
the original proposal, but based on Consor's finding of the
Yes.
2 additional FTEs, this is what that would look like. So that was what I was presenting to you guys to discuss. You have 2 different tables here.
Mhm.
One that factors in those 2 FTEs for sewer, and that's this 4.5%.
Uh-huh,
Or you have the non-2 FTEs, which is prior work that we had already reviewed, 3.5%.
okay. Yeah, because I think that's the only one I got on here, so I don't know if I got the 4.5.
No, I mean, this is
Nobody-
the top of this.
Okay, so we just got that today, or tonight.
Tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like top.
We're looking at it.
Okay, well, okay, yeah, so that surprised me, but, now, is that going to go on our, I thought we just raised, I mean, we have the sewer, that's what we want to do the sewer flow, and when I was looking up on this, Bainbridge wasn't even on here, and then we had Paulsbo, Carver, Kingston, Bremerton, Port Orchard, all this. My calculations were less than what the, on the sewer flow for, so Port Orchard was 163 that you said. For some reason, I don't know why I got 81. So, dollars, so,
That's monthly versus
That's monthly.
bi-monthly.
This is bi-monthly.
That's bi-monthly, it's every 2 months.
oh, so you're, yeah,
It's
so
double
you're
it.
going every
It's
2
double it.
months. Well, that's
So
it.
it's like-
All of this is 2 months.
Exactly, and that's when we get our bill. Okay, so when I was doing all that, now, when we get the bill, because I thought we just did the utilities impact. And so, when I go over this, I thought our utility bills went up, probably a little after 2020, because I remember when I was saying it was $20 more every other, when we get that billing. Doesn't that continue with our billing? Because, so my billing rate, well, I don't do a lot of water, so I got sewer, 163, the storm drainage is 40, well, my bill altogether is 286. So when we do this impact, is that like $10 more on our bill? So it will basically, in 5 years, be $3,340.72 or something. Is that how we're gonna do this? So it's gonna go on this bill, right? Our sewer, water, and,
Yeah, we're discussing the sewer aspect of it, though.
well, exactly, our bill is sewer, all of it.
This is just that element.
I get that, but doesn't that go
I can't
on
answer your
this
questions.
bill? I get it,
If you are a water sewer storm customer, it comes in one bill, yes.
yes, yeah, so that's
But
what
not
my
all
question
customers
is.
Are all water sewer, right? We have some that are West Sound, so depending on the customer,
Mhm.
they will see that. If you're a sewer customer of the city, this would show on your sewer customer bill.
Uh-huh. In the city, but if you're not in the city, then you wouldn't,
If you're not in the sewer, say you would not receive a bill. This is only for city residents.
well, and then he just said,
West Sound, we provide
West Sound.
stormwater, so they can just get a stormwater bill from the city,
uh-huh,
correct? Just stormwater?
yeah. Well, it's nice just to break it down for people to really understand, you know, of what the rate is gonna go up. So it's our job, you're saying right now, we either are going to, say 3.5 or 4.5 is what you want the city council to vote on in the near future, right?
Yeah, that's the direction I'm looking for. That's okay. So let's wind it back just a little bit.
Uh-huh,
So FCS Group, they did a study to see what revenue we would need in order to satisfy our financial obligations in the system from 25 to 2030. In that analysis, they determined we need to raise revenue 3.5%. And we asked for a rate structure that would do that. And so that's what you have before you,
mhm,
is the rate structure that would meet that need, with the caveat that I want to simplify the non-residential table to a single rate. So that's what we have here presented to the council is, here's a new rate structure and new rates going forward that would meet our financial obligations. The alternative is, again, looking at the 4.5%, sorry, I keep putting that forward. If council were supported and wanted to fund these FTEs, I would propose we make that part of this plan now, rather than Dennis come back mid-biennial or even next year and asking for FTEs, and it not be included in the financing plan. Right, because at that point, it's not included in the financing rates at all. So that's why I'm bringing forward now, because the timing seems to make sense. And that's why you have the two proposals for you. Now I'm looking for direction, if these are the right proposals. Right now, I have teed up the 3.5%, because again, the 4.5%, you know, within the last week that we learned this and kind of went through this exercise. So I'm kind of getting direction from two different ways. A, do you like this direction? 2 FTs, and then alternatively, we had a couple of council members in the finance committee suggest a different approach to rates, which was the average of the 6 years, and we just keep it flat for the 6 years and see how everyone feels about that.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, my question, to go back to Mark's comment about flat rating for 6 years, is somewhere in the middle. Was that your?
5 years.
5 years.
2025
Excuse me, 5 years.
everyone says 6 years.
Sorry, I can't
Everybody
go
keeps
in
saying
Yeah,
six.
I know, take out 2025, you're right, okay. For 5 years, and this may be more work than it's worth, and that is split the baby, so to speak, and do it for 3 years and then 2 years. You know, so there's a rate increase, but it's not as much on that year as opposed to at the year end of 2031. I mean, that's a different way of looking at it. You know, also, it's just trying to keep, I understand keeping it consistent, which I kind of like, but I understand when you get to the end of it, you're gonna have, you know, you're gonna have an increase of some sort because of that. I like the 4.5 because of the, you know, of the FTE. So So I can support that. It doesn't, you know, on that, still lowers the rate for residential if we go with the one, you know, with the yearly increase. I don't know what that would, do you have that there, what it would look like if it was steady for 5 years? I'm sorry. If it was steady for 5 years, there was no increase? I mean, you know, when I say no increase, that would be steady state. Do you have that one?
No, that wasn't a calculation I did, that was a
You
percentage.
just take the average of 26 through 30.
Okay.
I'm gathering mine now, right?
Yeah, we can do the average.
Yeah.
I just-
Yeah, that's a rough way to do it. Okay. No, so that's my 2 cents. With 4.5, I'm just throwing out a different idea. That's all.
Well, and I'm gonna piggyback on the
Yep.
FTE thing, because I'm just curious, budgetarily, right? We don't have enough money to add staff out of that fund today, and we charge a rate of $163. We're gonna take that down to 151
For residential.
for residential, right? Yeah.
Okay.
How, at what point in that study are they saying, and at what rate? Did they go out and get a bid from Debbie, or were we using existing infrastructure to know how much they put aside in the budget for those FTE? And at what point in the plan can we actually add those two heads?
So, let's say what I think I heard you say. So the assumption I believe we made were that we'd add for the 4.5%, we'd add one FTE in 2026 and one FTE in 2027.
And there is a vehicle, but we don't need a vehicle for employees. There's one vehicle to account for both employees.
So we assumed that.
And that was in the plan. That was part of the input that we gave to FCS.
Okay, so the evaluation of these additional FTEs is only factored into this last slide here.
I understand.
Okay, yes, so.
That 4.5.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to, how do they get that 1% equals 2 FTEs?
No, 1% is an additional.
I know, so if they went from 3.5,
Yeah.
says no FTEs, 4.5% instead of 3.5 gets us 2 FTEs.
Yeah, so we had the
Okay,
conversation
yeah.
with FCS, we said, hey, counselors recommend 2 FTS. I don't know what council want to do, is there a way we can come up with a rate so I can talk with council about this? They asked, will give us the cost figures, so we gave them the cost of what it would cost for 2 sewer FTEs at the highest salary, and a vehicle, that's the assumption we made, and we assumed that one would come in 2026, the other would come in 2027. So those assumptions,
Then
they come back. we put
Those are
into-
inputs that we gave FCS.
Yeah, and then
they
they back
built.
correct, and that's how they get back to the new,
Answer your question.
I do not like telling council members I don't know the answer to something. I was trying to pull up the information out of our cartograph, and they're working on it right now. It's down for, it's locked out, so they're doing upgrades. If you would like, I'm all for being accountable, and I want our taxpayers, ratepayers to be confident in our system. I can have Caden come next Tuesday night, and I can do a 5-minute presentation of what our stats are for storm, what our current state is. We have thousands of open tasks that we've created across the city, so we're buried, but we're making progress. But if that's, I'm more than willing, like a quick 5 minutes to stats before the public meeting, would that help?
I'm not in charge of the agenda,
That's-
but more information is always.
Or if a slide or two is,
A slide or two, I might present it. Yes, I will have that information. What our current state is, TV inspection. I try to pull it and I can't do it. So
so back to what I need tonight.
Sorry.
If there's any direction in the council, so to craft the ordinance for a public hearing. And again, right now I have it crafted as the 3.5%. Now, do you want me to change it? Do you want me to here? Do you want me to round these off? Is there anything you feel that you would?
Mark's got his hand up first.
Yep, it's fine.
So, based on what we heard from our consultants and the design team, and also from Dennis, we're behind on general maintenance. And so I'm in support of the adding 2 FTE and the program for adding them into our rates. I think that's one of the issues we need to provide guidance for tonight, correct?
I think that's probably the first round of show of hands.
So you're for
Okay.
the 4.5.
No, I'm for adding the 2 more full-time employees.
But that's a 4.5.
Sense of
And it equals out to a 151
point, that's basically, it's either 4-point or 3-point.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got second thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm still shocked that we needed consultants to tell us that we're behind on maintenance. No, I mean, it's totally serious. I mean,
I am too.
I'm just, the whole thing just, I'll be honest, like, confuses me. Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
No, I was gonna say, it's not a shock. I mean, that's one of the reasons that past council has gone for the asset management plan, because we knew we were gonna start seeing all this from past. So, I mean,
I'm
it's a
sitting
question.
here listening to them, and I don't think anything they said, we honestly couldn't do it in-house, what they presented to us. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, they could have taken the previous one they gave us in 2020, added assets to it. Not a lot. We know what maintenance we've done since then. We know what assets we've added since then. I'm just really pretty confused by it all. We need to add employees, so my wife's not gonna be happy, but it's part of doing business. But
But keep in mind, as presented, this would be a reduction in
Yep,
residential.
that's where it's going.
no. I understand, but like,
For sure.
I definitely have.
Let's just make sure we have that aspect.
Well,
Like-
Till 2028.
Okay.
and then
And Charlie has her hand up.
Yeah, let's,
go ahead, Charlie.
Oh, just real quick, the question that seemed to be posed was sort of the need for a rate study, and just there is sort of a legal justification for why we have to utilize a rate study for the purpose of setting rates. I'm happy to discuss that with the council if you'd like that background, but that is the impetus for utilizing a consultant for this work product. Because if our rates are not set by a study, then there are legal risks, legal issues associated with that. Again, happy to discuss that if needed.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate the heads up on that, because I didn't know that for sure.
So-
But it still confuses me.
so going back to 2 additional FTEs.
Yeah.
I think I heard 3 so far. I'm a 4th.
I say no. I want the 3, the lower one. And we just got this information to go up higher tonight. We didn't even get, I mean, I studied all this. And then you're putting this on me tonight. So, no, I don't appreciate that for the 4.5. I don't appreciate that at all.
Did you have questions or something you didn't understand about the 4.5?
Well, I understand the 3.5 but then all of a sudden, now we're gonna vote on 4.5. I didn't even get to, I mean, I studied all that, but now you want our bill to go higher. And we just put last year our bill higher for our utility bill, and now we wanna do it again. And, and
Do you,
yeah, I understand raising bills,
no.
okay?
Do you understand the need for the additional FTE?
Yeah,
Okay.
because they want another employee, 2 employees.
I think she struggles with what the rest of us struggle with. We talked about it in finance, right? Everybody's pocketbooks are
Tight.
right? It is tight, and we get it, right? And I think that's our role, our unique role as a council member is to
Yes.
balance that, right? And I
Or-
hear Director Lyons, and you talk to the guys on the ground, right? Like we all know
Sure.
we're paying for the sins of our past. Should this population be the ones that fully pay it? I don't know that that's the right answer, right? Should that be shared over time is, I think, some of the thought process over that. Should we move? Absolutely. Should it be all the way? I don't know. But I think that's the struggle here because folks are struggling to make those payments.
Sure.
right?
And
So
it's me.
it's not easy. I get it. I'm also for adding FTE. I said this earlier tonight at Finance Committee. I struggle, right? We just raised stormwater, right? Water rates weren't too far before that. Impact fees, when
Yeah.
everything just goes up and up and up. At some point,
Every time.
this body
Come
has to
here.
say no to something somewhere. Where is that? I don't know. I don't know that it's this either,
And
right?
I'll
Is
just-
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'll just insert that I think being too flippant about saying no has led to sins of the past.
I agree, right? That's what I said. Having thoughtful dialogue and conversation. If the council member needs more time, then I hear that. I
Sure.
think we have the four we need, right? I'm gonna add, that I'm also for, at least on this first side,
Yeah.
I want the extra FTE. I don't know that I want what comes with it, but that's a whole other story.
Sure.
And
then
our
Fred.
population is growing, so can't that growth in population pay for this without raising it to 4.5?
But when you raise population, you're also, by building homes, you're installing new assets, new lines, new manholes, new lift stations. Every lift station that goes in, we have to maintain those lift stations as they go in. I've worked in the field before. In this line of work, all lines of work. I don't know how you can do that job with 4 employees. That's why I asked the question. I don't know how you can maintain a sewer system with 4 employees. I'm surprised. Well, we're not maintaining a sewer system. We're putting out fires. We're chasing fires is what we're doing. We're not getting ahead in anything. So, I don't want sewage backed up in my home.
I don't think.
Nobody else does as well.
No,
but-
I don't really agree with that, but
Well,
that's okay, that's okay.
And that's okay.
I don't agree with that.
But I'll speak of 30 years of experience. I don't know how you do it with 4 employees. And I think you and I can just go for a field trip together.
Yeah.
We'll drive around. And I'll show you literally everything.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like,
Uh,
yeah,
honestly,
Yeah, and I'll,
yeah, me too.
and I'll say, how does 4 employees do all this work?
So
I don't
I
think it's
want to
just-
circle us back to,
Important.
Fred, you haven't had a chance to speak tonight, so.
I support the additional FTEs, and one of the things that we talked about in finance was if the 2 was enough. The tables that they presented us on pages 90 and 91 are very confusing when you compare the miles of pipe or whatever and the pump stations. Those gave very different figures. So my question to Dennis is like, is two people more, is that gonna be enough to maintain what we need to? And I accept that, yes, we do need more people, so I would support that.
Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was just gonna go to piggyback on what Eric was saying. One of the things that during my time here, and I think you guys can comment, add on, is every time we've gotten into something major, the Marina Pump Station, Tremont, our as-built have been horrible. And I mean, most of them are 60 years old or 50 years old. So I'm more concerned about what we're gonna find than thinking that, oh, it's okay. And that's, you know, and you're right, John, it's, you know, sins of the past, you know, catching up with us, but we knew this as we were gonna grow, and that's, you know, what we're paying for it now. But, you know, it is a reduction for temporary, for a period of time, but inflation's also going up regardless. And so that's why I'm in favor of the 4.5. I will defer to the finance committee on the straight rate or, you know, the increase. So I'm not that big a deal on that.
Well,
So 4.5 is fine with me.
So I'll give my opinion on that. I feel like we ought to step it. I think people over time may not like it, but they're also not surprised to know that their utility rates and other monthly billings are gonna go up. So I think that we try to provide relief where we can, and so I think that's starting with the alternative, with the 153 in 2026 and that approach. So that's my view. I think you soften it a bit, but then when it does go up, people again don't like it, but it's not unexpected.
It was still gonna go up though if we did 3.5, isn't it?
No, it's going up
No,
no
it's
matter.
going down initially.
No, it's not gonna go down initially. If we
Well,
did
it both
3.5,
Yeah.
it's going up on our bill. It's not going down.
The sewer portion of it would decrease by about $10, $11, I think.
No.
Yeah, but
Even under the
You're putting that
3.5.
For year one, it goes down.
And year 2
And year
would
two.
be down.
Even
Yeah.
under 4.5, it goes down.
yeah,
I don't understand that, because I looked it up, and it slightly goes up every year. I said, I did my bill, and I said, increase 3.5, okay? My
that's your
bill,
entire bill.
well, yeah, I did my entire bill, but, or even if you just did the sewer
You can
bill.
only
If you
do the
did-
sewer.
Right, okay, the sewer, but if you do a Yeah.
We pay it every other month. It's
Every
not
other month.
I remember that. So your next bill, if we approve this, will take your portion of sewer from $168 every 2 months.
63.
I'm sorry, $163 down to $153.
Uh-huh.
That's a reduction.
So it goes down and then it goes back up.
And then eventually it gets back up to 100.
But year two, you're still lower than you are today.
Correct. So that, again, why I would say, if we said that's 167.50 for just throwing that number out, it's slightly higher than it is today, but it also makes it even so that those on fixed incomes,
Yeah.
those types of things don't have the issues that we have here.
So basically, in 5 years from now, it will go from 163 to 182. That's what you're saying, right?
Right. And you're in tax.
And so it's gonna go down, 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 no,
Down,
up, up for the last two,
So it'll go down 1.
and down again.
Well, technically from the year before, but it'll be up from 26.
So the next 2 years it
Yeah.
goes down, and then the next 3 years slightly goes up.
Okay, so I think we beat this up quite a bit. If you have
Well,
further
that's
questions.
good though, but I want the public to understand some of this. Sometimes it's hard,
Yeah,
so I like
yeah,
that.
If you have further questions, and, please meet with, in Dennis, as the case may be. All right,
Okay, so I heard the direction is to present the 4.5% table.
yes.
2 empty bags.
The final decision, we're not going with this flat, going with this.
The steps.
Step to
The
step.
step.
Does he vote on that? Well,
We're
I don't know
not, yeah,
how
I
that
go
we had-
say, we're not voting,
We're just
giving-
going forward.
Yeah, going
Yeah.
forward.
So I'm,
Don't want to confuse people.
I'm in
This is what I'll
favor
use for
of,
the public hearing, right? So you do have time to think about it.
Okay.
If you guys debate this and then at the public hearing, direct me differently for the
Well-
action item, that's still acceptable.
let's do a show of hands on as presented.
Which one are we talking about?
As
As
Oh,
presented.
just the step, the step.
The step versus
Oh, okay, I gotta make a choose. I'll go step.
Okay, so we've got enough to carry that.
Thank you.
Again, my only concern on that is at the end of this program, the jump, and it will be substantial in our homeowners or citizens.
Is if we flat,
We gotta redo a study, we may go down again like it did this time. You can't guarantee that. You just told me, right? The study told me.
Okay.
The 50-year.
You believe what you want to believe.
You're believing it, you're voting for it.
Well, because we're readjusting where the value is coming from, where the payment's coming from.
I see.
From overburdening the citizens in the past to now making it much more even. So businesses or what we consider non-residential here are paying more of their fair share. That allows us to lower our citizens' rates at this particular time. We probably are not gonna have that option again in 2030 when this contract is, or this agreement is up for renewal.
I think that's fair.
Well, that,
All right, so, Noah,
I'm done.
you're done? You got the direction you need on both approaches?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a step, 4.5%, and we'll see.
Okay. All right, and I don't see Nick. I think he was not feeling. Oh, there he is. Hey, Nick.
Hey, good evening. Apologies for not being there in person tonight, but trying to keep you all healthy. This is a continuation of our multifamily tax exemption discussion from our July work study meeting. And at that meeting, the direction that I received was to draft a multifamily tax exemption ordinance that would be roughly based on the ordinance that had been repealed in 2023. We wanted to bring forward both an 8 and a 12-year exemption, multifamily tax exemption. And we wanted to try to accomplish two things. One was to encourage the development of higher value buildings so that the city's long-term tax revenues would be more favorable than they are given what the market is currently producing. And two, for the 12-year exemption, we wanted to have a more aggressive affordability target. And so the law on 12-year multifamily tax exemptions requires that 20% of the units in the complex be affordable. That number is staying the same. What's changing is that the actual amount that somebody would pay for one of those units is going to be reduced quite a bit over what had been in our previous ordinance. So real quickly, just to recap what multifamily tax exemptions are. These programs are a property tax waiver, and cities can enact them to support local housing goals. And they apply for conversion of housing, rehabilitation, and new construction where there are at least 4 residential units. And as I mentioned, there are a variety of terms for the tax exemption, but in Port Orchard, there are only 2 tools available to us. It's the 8-year exemption and the 12-year exemption. The 20-year exemption would require us to be a high-capacity transit community where we have like light rail service for the city at a certain frequency. And so we are not eligible for the 20-year exemption. Since our July work study meeting, the draft ordinance and maps that we've developed have gone to both the Land Use Committee and the Economic Development Committee. And I think both committees were comfortable with the language that was presented in the ordinance. There's a little bit of a varying recommendation concerning the maps. But I want to jump into the ordinance first, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So bear with me while I find, I have to wait for Brandy to authorize screen sharing.
So you're jumping into the ordinance itself?
Yeah, the ordinance, which is on page 169 of your packet. I'm going to share, I'm going to attempt to share a Word document here. I think this is the correct one. So you'll see that this document, it's got some strike through and underline. It has some notes in the margin. I didn't track all of the changes from the repealed ordinance. In some cases, I just provided notes indicating what had changed. But the big change here is that we've added definitions for middle housing and for mixed-use shopfront buildings, because those are 2 things that we are trying to encourage under the new framework, the new proposed framework. And so the mixed-use shopfront building is a definition out of our zoning code. Middle housing is now defined in state law with some of the recent housing reforms that have taken place. We've clarified what it is to be an urban center, and the law requires that to designate MFTE target areas, the city has to adopt a map and indicate where its urban centers are. So we have discretion to determine what is an urban center and what is not. We have separately in our comprehensive plan, we have Puget Sound Regional Council's centers framework, which there is no requirement in state law that the centers framework that PSRC has adopted is the same thing as an urban center under the multifamily tax exemption statute. And so I'll get to that when we open the maps, but the mapped target areas are a little bit different than our centers maps. Moving on, the big change is in section 3.48060, which is project eligibility. And we have a new subsection 6 and subsection 7. Subsection 6 establishes new criteria that would apply to all multifamily tax exemption projects. And this basically is really getting at that desire to have a higher value building so that our property tax returns long-term are going to be better in the future than they would otherwise be under current market conditions. And so under subsection 6 here, there is a menu. You have to meet one of these 4 criteria in order to receive a multifamily tax exemption, whether it is the 8-year exemption or the 12-year exemption. The first of these criteria is that the project is a mixed-use shopfront building, which would contain commercial ground floor uses. The second option is that it's a building that's at least 4 stories in height. And while our code allows for 4-story buildings, we aren't seeing many of them built. The 429 Bay Street project just at the bottom of Port Orchard Boulevard is technically 4 stories. And so that's really the first project of that height that we've ever seen, but it's waterfront. I'm told that the economics of a 4-story building do not work in Port Orchard. And so the idea here is that we want to incentivize that building because it's more valuable and the city will actually be better off long-term financially from having higher value buildings. The third option is that it is a small lot and is containing middle housing, so 4 to 12 units. This is the only one that doesn't require the mixed-use shopfront building or the 4-story height. And then the fourth one is that a project that has 100% of its parking below grade would also qualify. So that one could actually be 3 stories, but the parking would be below grade if parking is provided. There are some areas of the city, most notably on the water side of Bay Street, where parking is not required because you can't go down because you're too close to the saltwater table. And so you may have a project that didn't provide any parking that would qualify, or you may have a project that provides all of its parking underground. Section 7 here, this is taken directly out of the repealed ordinance, except that we have changed the percentage that rent has to be below fair market value. And so, again, for a 12-year exemption, you have to meet one of the 4 criteria that I just read to you, and then you'll get an extra 4 years exemption if you also provide affordable units. And this says that a minimum of 20% of all residential units in the development would be rented out for at least 25% below fair market rent for 12 years. And then there are income requirements associated with those units so that they're not rented to people who have high incomes and are just getting a discount on rent. It's actually targeting the people who need the housing. And so this had previously required that the rent be 10% below fair market value, which is, it's a small discount, but it's not anywhere near as high as what is proposed under this ordinance. I will share that I met with the Kitsap Home Builders Association, and they did have concern that this 25% probably isn't viable, and they don't know that anybody would take us up on it. But I think that this certainly is a more aggressive target for us. If somebody's going to qualify for one of these exemptions, we want, what I heard from the city council is we wanted greater rent relief. So that brings me to the second part of the discussion, and I'll stop there and see if anyone has any questions about the framework. I think 6 out of the 7 of you have discussed it at one committee or another, but if anyone has questions about the ordinance before I jump to the map, go right ahead.
I have a quick question. I just want to make sure I heard you correct. KBA had difficulties with 7A and suggesting that that would pencil out.
Correct, yes.
Did they provide a percentage?
They indicated that they would be doing some outreach to the city council, and so I got an email from their legislative policy analyst today. He didn't realize that our work study meetings didn't allow for public testimony, so I did encourage him to email you, and I told him that before we adopt anything, there will be a public hearing at a later date, and so there is more opportunity to provide input on this. So they had indicated that they might, that it may be helpful for them to walk us through a pro forma and explain sort of the math of building one of these projects to show how they think this program would or would not be utilized. And I welcomed that suggestion and suggested that that would be helpful to you all.
Jay?
Yeah, Nick, so this, if I'm correct, when I read this and in our discussions, this really helps with our missing middle, correct?
It does. And you know, one thing we have not seen a lot of in recent years are those little infill projects where you maybe have a property that's had code enforcement issues, or that it's a really borderline uninhabitable house and it needs to come down. And, you know, being able to put 4 units in place of that one house right now probably is difficult to pencil. But I think with a multifamily tax exemption, that probably gets that type of project across the finish line. So that's the hope here.
Thank you.
Director Bob, I just have one quick question on letter D, 100% parking. There are other qualifications, like somebody couldn't put in a triplex in a residential area and put all the parking underground and be able to take advantage of this.
So first of all, a triplex wouldn't qualify for the program because it's 4 or more units. But yes, if the parking was below grade, you would qualify. Yes. And before I jump into the maps, I had forgotten the Economic Development Committee had requested a little information, and I'm gonna share some slides with you all that you saw previously, and then there's 2 new slides that are on this slide deck. At the last meeting, I presented a case study looking at 2 different apartment complexes in Port Orchard. There was the Overlook Apartments built in 2016. And I do want to note that these were built under the first iteration of our multifamily tax exemption program. And I'm speaking of these as if they were built under the one that was repealed in 2023. And then there's the Pays No Apartments projects, which was built as a 3-story project with no multifamily tax incentive, and they're paying their full taxes from day one. But very similar projects in size, number of units, and the height and form of the buildings. So I provided the tax statements at the last meeting. You can see that the taxable value of the Pays No project is about $14 million. The taxable value of the Overlook is only $229,000, and that reflects the land value, not the improvement value. And so in this analysis, I basically took the Pays No project, which was a 57-unit project, and I basically determined a taxable value and a tax liability per unit, just simple division. So when we compared these, we saw that the tax savings of the Overlook Apartments is about $1 million over 12 years. Compared to the Pays No Apartments, which is paying $126,000 annually from year one. But what has happened since our discussion in July, we actually had a pre-application meeting with another apartment project, and this one was coming in just like Pays No, proposing a 3-story garden apartment project that would have 24 units. And the zoning at this site does allow for 4 stories, but the developer is not interested in building 4 stories. And so the idea here is that if we had an MFTE program in place that would incentivize the 4-story building, we would get a building that has 32 units instead of 24. The valuation of that building, prorated based on the Pays No tax bill, this is an estimate, would go from about 6.1 to 8.1 million. And we would see quite a bit more property tax revenue, both to the city and to junior taxing districts annually. And so over the life of the project, you're going to bring in, a little under $8 million, depending on changes in tax policy and other things, over that 90-year period. And we did calculate that the cost, remember we talked about the tax shift, and I did include the tax shift documentation in your packet, but the cost to our existing average taxpayer would be about $10.36 per year for the first 8 to 12 years, depending on whether they also provided affordable housing or just built a 4-story building without the affordable housing. So I know that a couple of you wanted to know exactly how much this is going to cost. At least for this project, we were estimating about $10.36 per property, per tax parcel, and that average applies to both developed and undeveloped land. So there are a lot of undeveloped tax properties in the city that bring that average down a little bit, but that would be the estimated average per property owner. So that's that presentation, and then if there's any questions on that, I'm happy to answer them, and otherwise I'm going to go ahead and share the maps.
So I saw Fred's first, and then I think Eric and Jay then.
Nick, thank you for the 1036 tax shift. I don't know what to look at. I'm going to look at that camera. So my question, and I'm going to see if I can formulate in a way that you'll understand, is that that's just for the Pays No, or the Overlook project, right? The 1036 tax shift?
No, the 1036 is for this theoretical project that we had a pre-application meeting on. If they applied for MFTE and provided us with more units, that's roughly the amount of tax that would be shifted to an average property owner in the city of Port Orchard annually to provide that incentive and get that additional value in the $8 million in revenue over 90 years.
Right, okay, so my question is, we don't seem to, or I'm going to make a statement and let me know if this is correct. If we put this program into place, we have criteria that people can use to qualify, and the council can't say yes or no based on whether or not we like the project. We've basically given them qualifying criteria. So my question is, at what point, we don't have a limit of the number of projects that could receive this exemption. So for example, we have Pottery Creek, we have the Overlook. What if we had more projects that keep adding to the tax shift? We don't have a limit at which we can say, you can only shift $100 and then we can't have any more, correct?
That's correct, and you have the power to repeal this program at a moment's notice anytime the council feels like it has gone or it has been fully utilized. You could pull it off the books again, although any project that was under contract would still move forward because we had made a commitment to those previously approved contracts or projects.
Mr. Director Bond, can you bring up that last slide you just had? So if you look at the beginning of that slide, the tax revenue on that property starts at 0. If we don't have that in place, that tax burden still belongs to the citizens of Port Orchard, and that tax shift would not have shifted to this new developed property to begin with to be able to share that. So it is technically a shift, but you would have borne that burden whether or not this was in place.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, the green line would have started below the orange line, and then at the end of the exemption, it would have slowly crossed the orange line as the revenue came in for the higher value building over time. But because there's a tax shift, the green line is always above the orange line. We're always going to be coming in ahead because for those first 8 years, the tax incentive is being paid by the rest of the taxpayers in the city.
Correct.
And if they don't do the project at all, none of it matters.
Right. No, I don't think that's correct, John.
There's still a budget. We set our property tax levy based off of what we set in our budget.
But as an
But-
example,
No,
If they don't build.
our property tax valuation changes on all the projects that we have in the city and what they're valuated at. Without that increased valuation,
But that
would
doesn't
not-
exist if we don't give them the opportunity to do that.
but we're also not shifting tax on anybody else.
our schools, our fire, all of them.
We may have to have a conversation about that.
All right,
I want to have a conversation later.
yeah,
I
so
for sure want to hear that.
you had the next question.
Yeah,
Comment.
there's several apartment complexes that have the garages below the units. Does that count as below?
Excuse me, I was muted. Yes, that would count if 100% of the parking was below the building, but in most cases, they're providing some garages and then some surface parking. So the idea here is that if all of the parking is below the building, you're using more of the site and you're getting more buildings, more units, because the land isn't being consumed by surface parking.
Following you.
And when the
Yes.
program expires for that property, then you have a higher valuation on that because of the underground parking.
Right.
I think Jay had his hand up right before you.
One of the comments I've made, and Nick and Noah, please weigh in, is the tax shift has always bothered me a little bit about it, and especially as you pointed out, it's on each project. The problem is, from my viewpoint, is the intangibles that are brought in by having a project completed, whether it be sidewalks, road improvements, that they have to bring in with it, people moving in and spending their money here, Port Orchard, yeah, and those benefits, and that's hard to quantify. I keep trying to pin it down, not trying, but it's like you can't say that this is going to, definitely happen. I think for me, I'm in favor of the 8 and 12, but I want to focus on them, and I think we're doing that with the maps about how we're restricting, is getting that missing middle for me. I think we're trying to stay away from the garden apartments and focused on the fourplex, I almost said triplex, but the fourplex and the density projects that we can get. So I agree with, I empathize with that because I went back and forth with everybody about tax shift by raising taxes. It's how do you want to use semantics? But I like the fact that we're bringing in the missing middle that this city desperately needs on that. That's my 2 cents.
Heidi?
On the 3-story to a 4-story, does the permit code, when you go to a 4-story, do you have to have an elevator? Is that why people don't really want to go?
You do, and
to a
that's
4-story?
a considerable cost. And what I understand to be the case is that the per square footage cost of a 4-story building is so much higher than a 3-story building that it does not pencil for most people to build that in Port Orchard because the rents in Port Orchard are just not high enough to justify the investment.
There was legislation to change that question. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I just want to add, I believe also 4 stories requires steel as well. So Stainless steel, yeah. So, I mean, not counting the elevator and the maintenance every year on that, which is extremely expensive, but, it's a lot. The issue I have is, it's not really a question, it's more of a statement. I'm really leaning towards you know, for 25%, and we did argue, not argue, we discussed to get an increase to that. I'm really curious, like Jay, put on your school board member hat. How do you feel about 150 units, which is a large neighborhood, not paying towards schools? You know what I'm saying? Or not paying towards fire. That's the part that kind of gets me. You know, is I try to put on my hat if I was the school board or if I was the fire department, and we're stating that no, you're gonna service this. You know, in a 4-story building, as an example, you better buy more ladder trucks, right? That's very expensive.
So the tax shift means that the school district and the fire district is not losing money. It's just being paid by the residents of Port Orchard as part of that $10.36 per year in the example of a 32-unit building. So those agencies aren't losing revenue. It's just a matter of who's paying it.
So you erased the last 2 minutes. I'm good. Thank you.
No, that was a good.
But it's a good question.
Yeah, I was kind of curious, like, yeah.
The other thing is,
Who pays
it's just
for it?
just the residents, for those activities, it's just a resident of Port Orchard, not outside.
Yeah. Because that bothers me a lot, you know, is that part, so.
Right, have we talked about the map, or are we gonna talk?
Nope, we can go ahead and move on to the map. And so the Land Use Committee and the Economic Development Committees had different recommendations. The Land Use Committee actually recommended pulling properties off of the map if the zoning didn't allow for, you know, the 4-story apartment buildings. We had a couple of institutional properties that just happened to be in the center. And so this is the mapped boundary. And we removed everything in red because it's like Cedar Heights Middle School, it's Port Orchard High School, it's Givens Park. Not that development would happen there anyway. I think that there was some concern about showing that as being developable when it's not. However, the Economic Development Committee actually thought that the area between the Bethel centers ought to be included. There is one project in there that is struggling to get off the ground, the Hidden Hills project. There's also the Crawford Road properties where we have a lot of code enforcement and we would like to see redevelopment. And one of the challenges there is that the Land Use Committee said, pull all the R1 zoned properties out of there because they don't allow for 4 units on a lot. But Crawford Road is currently R1. So there's sort of irreconcilable differences between the committees in terms of the recommendation. I'm fine with either map. You know, we'll do whatever the council prefers. So the green area is the addition from the Economic Development Committee. The middle housing, you know, mostly is going to be in the area of Givens Park and the Forest Park Grocery, and then out Perry and Farragut towards Annapolis. The you know, other 4-story apartment types, we as part of the sub-area plans for Bethel Lund and Bethel Sedgwick, we did provide some additional height, so they do allow 4- and 5-story buildings in some areas as well as in Ruby Creek. And so, you know, development in that area probably isn't going to be middle housing, but would be taking advantage of the 4-story incentive. And then the Economic Development Committee also asked that we overlay this boundary with the zoning map because they wanted to see where the red properties are. And so you can kind of see we faded properties that are outside of the target area. They are kind of a subdued color, whereas the colors that really pop are in the MFTE. And so anything in a shade of red is commercial or mixed use. So that's where you would see the mixed use shopfront buildings. Orange is also our downtown mixed use. So you see that in and around downtown. And then there's the browns, which are our R4 zone, where 4 stories is permitted outright. And the orange, which is R3, the orange without the crosshatch is R3. So that was just provided to help illustrate what is possible in different parts of the target area. So I need some direction from the council on which map you like and why you like it, and see if we can't reach some consensus if this is going to move forward at all.
Go ahead, John.
this
Yeah,
green
that's what I was
section,
wondering,
right?
yeah.
So when we're sitting there and we're talking about our centers within our city, the Bethel corridor makes sense, right? You have this center over at Fred Meyer, and then you have basically the Bethel Lund centers. I don't know if we group them all together in that whole area or not, but there was just this disconnect, right? And where do we see a good chunk of our transit and moving people up and down? It just, we thought made sense to include that portion. So if you were going to increase high density, high traffic areas, it to us made sense.
My personal opinion is I don't have a problem with adding it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, okay, it's not a big deal for me.
I agree.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, and then the second question would be the land use committee recommended pulling those red areas off the map. We do have a disclosure in the ordinance that says just because something's on a target area in the map doesn't mean that the land use ordinances actually allow the type of multifamily development envisioned by the program. So I think there was concern maybe that having these properties on the map would cause confusion. But at the same time, Crawford Road is a perfect example. It's R1. It would come on off the map as part of the land use committee recommendation. But I think that if somebody bought the properties on Crawford Road and wanted to redevelop that with all of the code enforcement challenges that we've had, that maybe is something that we would want to have on our MFTE map, even though it would have to go through a rezone before any sort of development could occur.
Go ahead, Fred.
I agree with this discussion, but my general observation about looking at the map is, I know that at one time, someone on council spoke about MFT being an incentive for waterfront development, because it's just more challenging redeveloping the downtown area.
Right.
But when I look at a map like this, it seems like this opportunity is to a lot more than just the downtown area, and I don't see this as an incentive for downtown. With an emphasis on downtown, I guess is my concern. So I guess the question is, if we, how much do we want to incentivize downtown, and is there a way that we might limit it to just downtown?
Where's the space?
Pardon?
Is there space down there?
I don't,
Well, I think the goal is that a lot of the areas would build up to maybe 3 or 4 stories. That type of development, because right now there is no incentive because of the topography.
We do have the height restrictions, so that would.
We do. It doesn't override the height limitations,
Right.
on that side.
But it's just that, if we did want to incentivize just downtown, this is really not going to do it. And, I think if collectively that's, another concern, I could certainly live with that. But I just wanted to bring out that we keep talking about wanting to do something for downtown.
But we
no,
can't do it.
we wanna do something for the businesses.
For this, well, I think it's one for doing for the whole city, on that side. And that's why I was talking about the missing middle, because nobody's gonna build a, 3, 4-plex downtown on that. I don't think precludes anybody. And Nick, I'll put you on the spot a little bit. 2 things. One, the council can look at development activity, get a report every year, how are we doing, if we wanted to amend the program. But 2, Nick, what if your projection, I mean, when you told me when we were doing the ADU, you expected 50, maybe in the whole county, which kind of blew my thought. And the point I'm trying to make is, you don't think there's going to be like a rush of folks for this program, do you? Or unknown, right?
No, I don't think so. I think that if you include the green area, there's at least one project that may apply for this, but they're going to have to figure out how to take their project from 3 to 4 stories to qualify, and potentially provide affordable housing. So whether they would go through with it or not, I can't tell you, and maybe we'll hear from the home builders on whether that makes that project viable or not. Otherwise, we don't have a ton of projects in the pipeline here. We do have the Kitsap Transit Park and Ride, and there are some pads along Sydney that allow some pretty tall buildings. And so I think those are at least 5 to 10 years away because of federal disposition rules for transit to get rid of the surplus property. But I think that's an area that could take advantage of this. And I would love to see 10 or 20 middle housing projects go forward. I think if we were to see that in the next 10 years, I would be pretty surprised. And I think we've written an ordinance that has pretty tough criteria, and this isn't going to be for every developer. And some developers are going to say, nope, that's not my wheelhouse. I don't even want to bother. But there may be a few developers who, say, I can do something innovative here, and I'd like to try this. I think it makes sense, but I think that's where you want to be with the program. Is you want to get value out of it, and you don't want to just give something away and get something that the market is producing already without an incentive. And I think the program as written hopefully would achieve that.
John, you had something you want to say?
Yeah, well, I just want to address your question, Director Bond. So I don't know what came out of another committee. When I'm looking at these two maps, because your direct question is, do we remove the red shaded of this map? To me, I say just leave it in. I think a lot of those places aren't going to be developable anyhow, but when I'm looking at the map, I'd rather it be a cohesive one big look. These are the big chunks of areas. I don't see any complete one-offs, so my 2 cents is to leave them as is.
And I agree. Who is next? Okay.
On the red map for the MTE, down on the waterfront, I think that should be removed, because you can't, I really believe, don't take anybody's view away. And what are you gonna put, a 3-story, 4-story along the waterfront? I don't see that, and I don't think the people really want that either, for that going down there. And then my other statement is, we already make codes and zoning where you can have land for, apartments or the middle housing. Why can't we put on, for real, affordable housing, why can't we put a zone land that says affordable housing? When a builder wants to come in, it's $300,000 or $400,000, not $800,000 for a home. I don't see why we can't already incorporate land usage for that.
Go ahead.
I think there's a number of issues with doing that. First is probably legality of zoning some of these properties so that only a niche product can be built on it. And it's not one that's very popular with our development community to begin with, so.
I don't know, what about if we own it and we don't have anything built on that and the city owns it, and then we, as a city, says, okay, this is going to be affordable housing when a builder comes in to build there.
I don't want to speak for everybody, but I don't know if the city wants to get into the housing speculation.
No, we're not in the housing.
Well,
The land is
But just how I would not go to your house and tell you that you can only sell your house for $300,000.
I don't get that.
Oh, I do, because but you can't come to me for my parcel.
No, that's your parcel, I'm just.
No. If I own 50 acres, you can't come to me and say that, you know what, you can only build homes in this value. Seems like I can't go and tell you you can only sell your house for so much, because people need to be able to afford to buy your home. You need to lower the price a little bit. I should be able to put a house on there, or apartments, whatever I want to sell, condos.
Yeah.
I should be able to sell this for whatever I want to.
so we're not requiring it, we're incentivizing it.
Yeah, so we're incentivizing.
Uh-huh.
That's what we're doing here tonight.
Yeah, exactly, on a land or whatever, say, oh, so if you build, 20 units out of 100, those 20 units, no, we're going 25 units out of 100, 25 units, gets affordable. That's affordable then, it's under market value.
Without the incentives, you won't have anybody take advantage of it.
Yeah, but we don't have that in McCormick Woods. McCormick Woods doesn't really have that. That's, everything in McCormick Woods is market value. So now, all of a sudden, it's market value in McCormick Woods. It's not,
the entire city.
The entire city is.
Everything.
yeah, so
Everything's
now we're bringing up, if you wanna build an apartment or whatever, now we're gonna give you, the MTE. The exemption.
Well, the state already, it's already a requirement for 8 years.
No, they have the option of 8 or 12.
If we.
No, I'm saying eight's the floor.
Yes.
Yeah, if we.
Eight's the floor.
It's either nothing or
Or
eight.
eight, yeah.
Heidi, the other thing you mentioned about views, view sheds, that's what the code was intended to protect. So, and nobody can bust that.
Okay, good, because
Yeah.
good, because I'm very strong on
It
that.
hasn't been tested.
What's that?
The view ordinance hasn't been tested.
No, but we have height limits in our zones.
Right, that hasn't been tested. Never mind.
Well, I want to.
Yeah, concerning the height limits, everything going out Perry and Farragut and above downtown is in a view protection overlay district. So we do measure height limits differently in those areas in part to protect views. Does that mean that somebody's not going to have a partially blocked view if something redevelops? No, but it does limit heights beyond what our standard zones would otherwise allow. And most of these lots are targeted at that middle housing product, which is a 4-unit project where you replace a house with 4 townhomes. You're not talking about significant height like a 4-story building there in most cases.
Maybe we should already put that down on the waterfront, that there is no 4-story down on the waterfront. I mean,
Well-
can't we do that?
I think what we say
We
is
already
must
said
comport
anything
with the zoning code.
Water side of Bay Street is not eligible. Because you can't.
Yeah, we have a height overlay district that is separate from the view protection overlay district for just our downtown. And it was very targeted where we looked at where you could go a little bit higher and where you couldn't without blocking views. And so the water side of Bay Street is limited to 3 stories. The uphill side of Bay Street is 4 stories. And there's a few parcels like at the bottom of Bethel where the Kentucky Fried Chicken is, where you're kind of in a ravine. If you build a 5-story building, you're not going to block somebody's view. So that site would allow for a 5-story building downtown. But otherwise, it's a very targeted height overlay map that tries to preserve views while encouraging some redevelopment and addition of housing in our downtown.
And Heidi, the reality is somebody could build a house that might interrupt somebody's view, but they get to. It's property right. Anybody else have any? Yeah, go ahead.
Nick, I just have a quick question for you. Are the previous versions of this, there was reporting differences between 8-year and 12-year? Is that still the same? Do we have changes in the reporting requirements?
No, we would still have to report annually on the 12-year exemptions, and there's an auditing process to verify that the people who are renting the units qualify because their income is low enough and that they're being rented at the appropriate amount, and that the developer is doing what they have contractually agreed to do with the city. So if somebody takes the 12-year incentive, there is a reporting requirement. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to charge annual fees for that. The only thing we can charge with MFTE is the upfront application fee. And so if we adopt this, we would need to re-adopt also a fee for applying for this program.
And Nick, have I heard us talk about in the past, or maybe this is a different conversation, that we could take those fees and use that to contract out for the reporting because it's pretty burdensome?
Well, I mean, we could certainly contract out to have somebody help us with the reporting, but you're only getting a one-time fee. You can't charge an annual fee ongoing for the cost of that service. So you would want to charge that up front, and then, the city would pay for that over time.
Yeah, it's a city responsibility, but it's also quite a burden, as I understand. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I remember that there was general discussion, very vague, Nick, about how some of that reporting could be included in the conditions that the applicant has to provide on an annual basis, possibly limiting staff involvement. I don't know if there are any more specifics on that, or if anyone else has it.
I think that's the case. There's the applicant reporting, but then there's our reporting and evaluation of their report as well. Nick, did I characterize that correctly?
Well, isn't it our auditing of their reporting?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm muted there. The applicant is providing us with an annual report that gives us the information that we need to plug into the state's reporting system. So it really is a data entry process at that point. And the key is getting the report from the applicant in the right format and making sure that it includes the right information, which is something that gets done in the initial contract for the multifamily tax exemption.
Okay,
I think it was a question when we went with the 8-year, because we were basically informed that the 12-year was a little bit onerous in the reporting requirement and might require an additional staffing in DCD. And that, I don't know if you want to comment on that, Nick.
Well, yeah, so the 8-year MFTE program is very light on staff resources because it's really the cost of preparing the initial contract and then finalizing the certificate upon completion of the project. Once it's been recorded with the auditor, the final certificate's been recorded, there's nothing left to do on the MFTE program. I talked to Bremerton a little bit about how much time they're spending on their MFTE program, and they said that one of their senior planners is doing the work, and it's probably about 10% of their time dedicated to the MFTE program. And so in Port Orchard, that's actually mostly fallen to me as the director to do. We now have senior planners, and we didn't have the same org chart for our planning division, but I have people that I could assign this work to. But there is some burden with the 12-year program, but we have far fewer of these than Bremerton. Bremerton also doesn't, their criteria are not nearly as difficult to meet. And so lots of people are applying for this in Bremerton. And I think under our program, which is a little bit more targeted, I don't think we would get as many applications. So it's probably not a huge problem for us. But if it became a problem, I would certainly let you know. And that could be part of the discussion, as Councilmember Chang mentioned, that if we get too many of these, at some point the city council may want to push pause on this program because it's costing our residents too much money. So same thing would go for our staffing resources.
Super.
all right, so Nick, I think you were looking for some guidance first on the map. I'm okay, like John pointed out, leaving the red in. I think it helps contrast where there's a no-go. Okay. I think you've got unanimity on that, Nick? Was there anything else you were looking for?
Yeah, sounds good, and it sounds like everybody was supportive of including the green area as well. And so that allows us to finalize the draft map. The next step would be I need to, I don't recall whether I would have to do a SEPA review on the proposed ordinance or not, or if there's commerce notice, so I need to check on that. But we would schedule this for a public hearing, and so if it's council's desire, I can work on getting that on a future agenda in coordination with the clerk and the mayor.
Sounds good. Sounds like a programmatic SEPA maybe.
It's possible. I need to do some homework.
All right. Are we done with MFT then? All right. We're down to our good of the order portion of the agenda. Any good of the order? Jay?
I used Click It, Fix It this past weekend, and it worked great. So I just wanted to thumbs up, and it's super. Under my shirt sleeve, I have a Looney Tune bandage. Don't ask how I got it, Band-Aid, because I got my COVID shot today. I'm just letting people know that they're available, and it's up to you if you want to move forward with that. I would ask, is there an update from either Nick or Charlie on Garrison?
No update at this time. The litigation authorized by the council has not yet been filed, but we anticipate that by the end of the month.
Thank you. That was it for me.
All right, any other good of the order? Oh, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that we have been doing some outreach on the Sherman Avenue Stormwater Park, and we are having a workshop in the council chambers tomorrow night. It is not advertised as a council meeting. The committee was invited to that meeting. Mark Trineri is the council member who serves on the steering committee, as that's an area of town where he lives. And we really are trying to get people from that area to turn out. But of course, it is a public meeting, and people are welcome. So if two of the other council members wanted to come, we have room for you. If more than two want to come, I'm not sure if we can get a notice out in time, Brandy.
Yeah,
All right, perfect. So hope to see some of you there, and hopefully we will have a good turnout.
All right,
And then I just have one thing if I might.
okay.
So we passed a resolution setting the council's meeting schedule for 2025. Unfortunately, I did not catch that November 11th is Veterans Day, which is a Tuesday. It's the first, or excuse me, it's the second Tuesday of the month, which is a regular council meeting. The mayor is proposing that we cancel that meeting based on staff agenda items and make the November 18th work study session a regular meeting. So we'll have 2 regular meetings on the 18th and the 25th, no work study in November. If the council agrees, then I will bring forth a revised resolution stating that at the next meeting.
Can we play it by ear in case there's not much for,
We plan our agendas out to that far, and at this point, staff has either nothing planned or can adjust.
That's in November.
2026?
Oh, what?
Oh, it's November? Oh, it's
I
November.
was thinking November.
Oh, that's why I'm like, why do we have to, like, can we play it here? Like, we're a year out here. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, November 11th is Veterans
That's
Day.
fine.
Okay, yeah.
Near and dear to my heart.
Heidi would like to go next, I think you.
Yes.
Your hand up.
Could we, on that ClickFix, I love it. Were we gonna, I thought we kind of talked about it, are we gonna put that back on for the government page to remind people and kind of do a little, show how to do it to the public? Wasn't that gonna, I thought that was.
Government page or
Or-
public
The
works?
Facebook
Our public,
page. The government
the-
Facebook page?
yeah,
The
our government page.
clerk's office was tasked with that, but I was out most of
Okay.
last week, so it is on our list to get that out
Oh,
today.
yes, because I just think that would be really good, yes. Thank you.
And then Dennis, you had something you wanted to say?
So I had two things, I'm sorry, were you first? No, you go. So two things, I just want to remind everybody, the C-Click Fix, it gets streamed to the county, so we don't get them the same day and the next day all the time, so it's pretty good, but it's probably about a 24-hour turnaround, but it's very common to get stuff over the weekend, like on a Friday, and we don't get it till early next week, so we do get it for free, so it's,
It's really good.
Yeah.
Still fast.
yes, but we're working on like improving that, like opportunities with Cartograph where it's integrated, which would be our own. The other thing, I want to be able to sleep tonight, so 23.1% of the city has been TV'd in the sewer system with gravity. We have 3,259 open sewer requests right now, and we're still building our sewer.
How many?
We have 3,259 open sewer requests, workflow, and we're still building that workflow, so we haven't even realized everything that needs to be
Just to
done.
clarify, it's not open sewer like.
No. Open tasks that are
Work orders.
plan tasks in the queue, so now I can sleep.
Yeah.
Two quick things. One, while Jay was talking about getting a shot, I'll remind you, you can go get blood. They're always in need of blood. They do it here regularly. I do it up in parking lot of the church. They bring blood and they'll come back. November 17th is my next donation. St. Gabe's, right up there on Mitchell. Yeah.
Wish they'd throw that out more. Yeah, I'd like to know that.
Yeah, they're regularly there. Go on their website, Bloodworks Northwest. That's who I use. And then two, I'm not going to be here next week. I will be in Indiana, so just throw it.
Okay.
Zoom?
I'm working, so
Okay,
I don't
yeah, okay.
think I'll Zoom.
Okay.
Otherwise, I will.
Have a good trip, safe trip.
Yeah. See you in October. Anything else? Okay, gonna adjourn the meeting at 9:02. Thank you, everybody.
Good job, Pro Tem.
Recording stopped.